Okay, we'll get going here in 1 minute. And you go by Mike or Michael, and I apologize.
Mike is fine.
Mike, okay. Well, Mike, thank you very much for joining us this evening. So a couple things, just housekeeping to start. We'll talk for about a half hour, ask you some questions. You can ask us some questions. It's pretty laid back. No gotcha questions at all. We are going to forego the live streaming of this because we had a technical issue with one of the other candidates through no fault of his own. We will post all 3 interviews from this evening tonight on our website, windcoil.us, so anybody in the community, the media, other board members can take a look at it. That way it's fair to all 3 candidates. We've had 2 interviews this evening. Our third is with Michael Lepart. Mike, thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to start off with a few questions, then I'll kick it over to Keith McDonald, who's a board member and also the Republican caucus chair. He'll have a bunch of questions for you as well. And again, thank you very much for joining us.
All right, thank you.
So the first question is why county board? Why now? What is inspiring or driving your interest in serving in this manner, Mike?
Well, moving here to Winnebago, I guess six years ago now. I was born and raised in Boone County. A little bit of involvement back there. As a business owner now and working in the area, I guess I want to take a more formal role in helping out the community. Concentration on holding the line for property taxes, public service, or public safety, I guess, if you will, budgeting issues there, and trying to help attract and sustain small business in the area.
Good. Tell us a little bit about your background. It could be on the personal side, the private sector business side, and then try to explain to us how that ties to making you the right fit to be the county board appointee for District 4.
All right. Well, currently I'm employed as a sales engineer for a large cutting tool company based here in the United States. I've got 23 years of experience in manufacturing. I started out as a apprentice machinist, moved into a role of journeyman machinist for several years. From then I moved into roles of manufacturing engineering, process engineering to my current role. Split up into those 23 years of experience, I spent 10 years in finance and insurance arena, where 5 of those years I spent working for a large local bank here in the area. I was a retail market manager where I oversaw the day-to-day activities of 3 local branches. Also during this time, 25 years, my wife and I have spent, we've owned and operated a small business in the area, which currently houses 25 associates. We recently moved that business from Belvedere to Rockford 2 years ago. My community involvement prior to this is mainly in the Belvedere area. Everything from Chamber of Commerce to Crime Stoppers, Rockford area. I guess my involvement was on the foundation board for Crusader Health. So with this unique, diverse background that I do have, I do believe there's a lot of sectors that I'm familiar with and that I've been involved with in the community. And like I said earlier, it's just timing is right for me, and I'd just like to take a more formal role.
Okay, thank you. If you're appointed, so it's an interesting scenario where a board member who'd been elected dropped off the board midterm. There's several months left in this particular segment before the election. So there's 2 things. One is there's a several month appointment here between now and early December 2020, and we'll just kind of deal with that right now. If you got appointed as the District 4 representative for those several months, what would be 2 or 3 of your top priorities, Mike?
Like I say, holding the line on property taxes and public safety. Making sure, the budgeting issues, I know there's budgeting issues with that, being involved in that, And like I said earlier, being a small business owner ourselves, I think we need to stand up and there's a lot of empty space in town, a lot of empty retail space I'd like to see full and sustain the amount of small businesses that we do have.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll turn things over to Mr. McDonald has some questions for you, Mike.
Okay.
Mr. Lepar, how are you tonight?
I'm good, thanks.
I sorry for looking down. I wrote down my questions so I could ask them equally fair for all three candidates this evening.
Okay.
We make decisions as board members have to be approved by at least a majority. Sometimes there's a super majority, it depends what we're voting on, but at least a majority of them. Tell me about ways you would try to persuade or influence your fellow board members to see things the same way as you do, or to come around your way of thinking.
I guess looking at all opportunities fairly, bringing up issues and seeing, how each issue is going to impact negatively and positively. I'm pretty open-minded. I think I'm a pretty logical thinker myself. And coming with the background that I do have, I guess open and honest communication is key and foremost in that.
Sure, I strongly agree with that. Open. Tell me how you'd handle it if you were on side A of an issue, like we were just speaking of, but you were a dissenting vote. It didn't happen your way. How does that affect your mindset or your relationships with other board members? Or how do you move forward after taking a defeat that they look at things?
Well, open debate is commonplace, and I think in society. And if it's a true defeat, and if people are passionate about what they believe in, and I think moving forward, there may be issues that you're going to win and lose, and you got to take it. I guess you just got to take it all. And so maybe the issue is, if it's not a dead issue, maybe you can continue to work on that. Maybe there's other circumstances that may change in the future that will help persuade them to see your point of view.
Very good. For the last several years, the county board has been approving budgets that include deficit spending. We are projected to lose over $6 million this year because of the COVID virus, and will be forced to spend down much of our reserves. Do you have any experience working with budgets, and if so, what steps the county should take right away?
Yeah, it's never fun working at a deficit. In fact, some places that I've worked with, they budgeted as for turnover, so you almost had to work with the deficit. Again, there's where, if you're looking at a money stream coming in, where's the biggest bang for your buck? Where are you going to get the most use out of those funds? Is it worth spreading very thinly across many different sectors? Or is it putting it into one area where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck? I hear a lot of talk on, in this board and throughout the community where, you can't keep spending money you don't have. I understand there's a lot of taxpayers out here also that use that same phrase. So.
For sure. I understand that you're not currently on the board. Is there anything that you can think of that from the outsider's perspective, anything that you would do differently, knowing that you have a $6 million shortfall coming?
Well, again, you're right. I'm not currently on there. I don't know all of the issues or where all of the funding needs to go. But obviously at the top of the list, you need to look at where cuts can be made, where the biggest impact is going to come from, and look at those type of issues and have serious discussions about that before putting it to a vote for raising taxes.
Thank you. And it seems like we're all straight up serious, lots of drama, everything's high tension. So my last question is, who's your favorite football team?
I've been a Bear fan my whole life, so I can't knock that.
Very good. Thank you. That's all the questions I had prepared. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Thanks, Mike. Appreciated your last answer there in particular. Let's talk about one of the things I've heard county board members navigate, talk about, struggle with is the fact that you would be appointed to represent a very specific part, and a very important part of the county in District 4. But a lot of the votes you also take impact the entire county as well. How would you balance county-wide needs, other district needs, with those specific needs of District 4 residents in your role as the District 4 rep?
Well, as a District 4, you're the point of view. You're their voice, obviously, for the district. Each of the districts in this, each district makes up the county as a whole. So issues that come across, I think you need to give it just as much as attention as it's a district issue, but how does that affect the county as a whole also? To ask somebody to choose, are you leaning more towards taking care of your district or the county? I don't know. To me, it's kind of like choosing between which one of your kids do you like better, right? I mean, it's a hard. I think each issue needs to have its own discussion. You got to look at both.
Understood. One of the things with the person who vacated your seat, he was a Republican elected, and in this appointment process, it's important to some. It's important to many and very important to some that the person get appointed as a true blue or true red Republican. That there's no doubt that person is in fact an active and ideologically speaking a Republican. Could you help us and people watching understand your view of that? If you're a Republican, and how, if you are, how you could help us understand that you are.
Well, I have been a registered Republican my whole life. Back in Boone County, I served on many boards, as I expressed earlier, many different committees. I did support local politicians on the Republican race. I did go knock door to door, helping acquire signatures for Republican candidates in my county. So with that being said, I took a little break from being involvement, and obviously I moved to a different county. So now it's kind of my turn to step up and take part in that now.
Understood. I appreciate that. So one of the things that will come up, that comes up every year at budget time and even outside of the budget cycle, is the host fee fund. The host fee fund, Mike, if you don't know, is dollars that come from our landfill, and they come specifically from the landfill as a fee that's tacked on when out-of-town folks import their garbage to our Winnebago landfill. It's not owned by county government, it's owned by a private sector entity, but per state law, there is a small fee that gets collected and given to local government, in this case, county government. We have traditionally directed those dollars towards special projects, economic development projects, and they've tended, although not exclusively, they've tended to be aimed at community type projects. But every year there's discussions about how do we best use those funds going forward, especially during tough economic times. I no doubt it will be a topic of discussion again this year. What are your thoughts, if any, on previous approaches around host fee, the host fee dollars used by the county board, anything currently and any future use from your perspective?
Well, first and foremost, in regards to the landfill, I travel around for my job a lot, so I do travel up and down I-90 and I-39. I hope we save a few of those host fees to clean up the area on a consistent basis. It does look bad many times of the year. So with that being said, if you're going to reallocate funds, again, where are you getting the biggest bang for your buck? If there's a huge shortfall in an area that you can use those funds for without going and asking taxpayers for more income, that definitely needs to lead discussion. Certain projects can wait. I know for, again, I can't speak in detail because I don't know what projects there are, but I know there's a lot of other groups and organizations in town that's always looking to step up and help out a project. you may have to think out of the box a little bit to replace where that money's coming from. But if there's a true need somewhere else and that money's available, I personally think it should be used to go towards that need.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
If I can piggyback on
Go
that.
ahead. Go ahead, Mr. McDonald.
The other question that I didn't ask, this is a good segue into, is the public safety sales tax. I know you are relatively new to it. You have a sales tax specifically to support public safety. My question to you, just using fictitious numbers, if we were already spending $30 million for the public safety, and this special sales tax brings us an extra $3 million, do you think that extra $3 million should make it $33 million that we can spend on public safety? Or does that mean we still spend $30 million on public safety and it just frees up $3 million to go to other parts of the county to help keep them operational?
Well, again, not knowing your exact details, is that 3%, is it needed? I don't know. I can't speak logically. I've not been in enough conversations in that, but, coming in from the outside looking in, there's a lot of new revenue that we're supposedly getting in from the new industries that Rockford's bringing in. I don't know how that money's being looked at in the future. I don't know what the projections are on that, but if there, is money available that's coming in from the new sales tax, what was it originally planned for in the beginning? Again, unknown questions, but I like to look at all options on the table and see what was the plan for the sales tax increase in the first place, and is it being derailed or is it just being filtered out? So
Thank you.
It's something I'm interested in and like to know more about that. So yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Thank you, Mike. So help us as we get to know you and people that'll be watching this on the tape delay, working with you on the board, help us understand what that looks and feels like to other board members, working within a team, how you approach making decisions, that type of thing. How could you help people watching this understand what it's like to be working in in this type of environment with you?
Well, I'm very familiar with working in a team aspect where there's many, you have many different points of view and many issues that come up that you're just not going to be able to solve all of them. Coming in, obviously, there's a learning curve that's going to take place. Lots of questions, lots of open ideas. I do tend to think logically or try to at least think logically on many issues that come up. Are there other alternatives? What are the options? I like to have all the cards laid on the table before being asked to make a decision. And definitely, if people are trying to persuade me one way or the other, it's going to have to be with logic and with precise knowing of all the other options.
Understood. Thank you. Mike, what appreciated your answer. What questions do you have for us? Specific ones, general ones for either myself, Mr. McDonald, regarding A, the process, B, serving on the board, any other county issues, community issues?
I have to admit, I involved as much as I can, and I look and keep up with the news as much as I can, not a lot. But I do have to ask where the chairman's duties do lie now. That's been in the news a lot over the past couple of years. I know there's been a lot of turmoil there. I have to admit, I really don't know where that sits right now in the role of the chairman.
So to be very candid and I guess respectful of the discussion, I'm in the final part of my term. I'm not running for re-election. I will be, my term is up when essentially your term, this little mini portion would be up. So we would be serving together over the next several months. From my perspective, the job that I started with is much different than it is today. However, there is a lot of attention right now in the COVID-19 pandemic that is consuming a lot of my time. I would answer your question with a question. The bigger question I have isn't what is resolved between myself and the board. And there's actually board members I really respect who I agree with and also have a respectful disagreement with on some issues. But what I would say is what's important to me is that in the future, the position is clarified for the next chairman and to the public as we go forward so that it's clear to folks that would be serving. So I would say regardless, it may not be settled, a settled situation over the next maybe short period of time you would be serving in this several month stint. It doesn't mean things would change either, but it is a different position than the one that I began with at the beginning of my term. I think that's an accurate statement.
Okay.
I would remain quiet only because it's pending litigation and I don't have a public comment for it. I don't mean to skate out on you, but there is pending litigation.
I understand, and that's why I asked questions. So, okay.
Yep. Any other questions you have for us?
No, not at this point. I mean, I think, you know, I've been around, you know, the community and in different groups long enough to, I think I get the gist of how this process works. So.
I'm curious, and I'm going off script here, so it's a question you're getting that others didn't, just out of curiosity. So you inquired about this opening rather late in the process, which is fine, and we are very happy to spend time with you this evening. What triggered you to engage when you did versus earlier? Is it that you didn't hear about it before, or that you heard there was a second round? How did you go about making that very specific decision to reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in this? Just kind of curious your thought process there. Not saying there's a right or wrong answer.
Well, yeah, it was a question that was originally brought up to me. My knee-jerk reaction was immediately no. I didn't want to. After, you know, trying it for a few days and, you know, posing questions to neighbors and family alike, it kind of became evident that, you know, maybe my background, my personality, it may be a good fit at this time for me and the community. So with that being said, yeah, I heard, you know, through the grapevine, there may have been some candidates that may be having some troubles trying to find somebody. I'm one to say, hey, you know, if you're going to sit back and criticize and complain about things, maybe you ought to step up and throw your hat and be that person. So that's what I'm trying to do now.
Gotcha. Thank you for the answer. The one thing I have observed with county board members is they have to take tough votes on budget and policy. Sometimes they get asked very direct questions from the media about those votes. Other times they're asked for their opinion on community issues that they might not take a vote on, but certainly impacts the people we all serve. COVID-19 has been front and center, been the topic of conversation for over a month now. If you were asked, you know, as a county board member right now, your thoughts on all things COVID-19, what would you say? Where do you, what concerns do you have? What things you think are going well or poorly? Either locally, statewide, federally, just general thoughts you'd want to put on record.
First of all, my thoughts against the media, you know, I'm very cautious about what I say to the media and how I say it, because I have been burned in the past as stories not quite coming out exactly how you want them or how you say them up front. With that being said, owning a small business right now in this community that is forced to be shut down, it's beyond frustrating right now. So as we have the daily updates with the body counts, what I am seeing a lack of is a plan moving forward. So as a business owner, not just myself, but several business owners in the area, we all find it very hard to try and make a plan for our business when there's no plan coming at us. That's, I think, at the foremost of what we're all concerned with right now.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you for your comments. What other questions do you have for us, Mike?
I guess, you know, I understand there was two or three previous applicants. Now we've got three. Is it, is it becoming, are you narrowing this down, or is it open to more candidates that's coming? Is there a hard and fast, hey, it's going to be one of these 5, one of these 3?
So there was initially,
sake, yeah.
Go ahead. I'll let you
I was
finish.
just going to say, just out of curious, it's not going to sway one way or the other the way I think about, my involvement, but I am curious of that.
No, it's a good, fair question. There was initially 3 applicants. 1 dropped out, 2 were interviewed. There was not majority support of our board for either of the 2 remaining candidates. And then as of last Thursday, we made it very clear we'd be moving forward and looking for a candidate that would have support of the majority of the board. So the immediate next steps after this is the 3 we interviewed tonight. I don't foresee, as of today, I don't think Mr. McDonald does any more interviews being needed unless there's something we're not anticipating. Things change. But you probably, the next steps in the process, Mike, would be you might have some people reach out to you informally, just kind of ask you some questions, get to know you a little bit, maybe not. And then next Monday, Mr. McDonald, the Republican caucus chair, is going to have a meeting with his caucus. Since this is a Republican seat, obviously the thoughts of that group are vitally important. And hopefully in short order and in the near term, there could be some consensus around where to go. There is a board meeting, Mike, on the 14th of May. And I think the plan, the goal is to have somebody appointed on the agenda that evening. I make the appointment, and then it is subject to board approval. Without board approval, a majority support for that particular candidate, that candidate does not get appointed to the county board. So that's why I think some discussion in the near term after these interviews and before an official appointment gets placed on an agenda is going to be really important to the process. Anything you want to add, Mr. McDonald, but I'm confident we can get that wrapped up in the early part of May here.
No, that's an accurate statement. Monday, we will have a caucus, which means just the Republicans will be there. We'll have discussions. We'll bring it up for a vote. Whoever has the majority of the votes in the caucus is who I will recommend. We'll have a joint caucus then the Monday prior to the 14th. And I would ask the chairman, whatever the Republican caucus comes up with in the vote, I will request the chairman to submit that name.
Okay.
So that's the plan right now. Things could always change. I don't foresee it changing, but nevertheless, that's where things stand now. Any other quick questions from you, Mike?
No, nothing I can think of right away.
We talked about the COVID thing, and I know you served on the Crusader board. I want to thank their organization. They helped with a community testing site over by Auburn High School, and they were integral in that happening. So I appreciate your service related to that board, and they're doing important work. So very, very important. Anything else real quick, Mr. McDonald?
No, I just want to say thank you, Mr. Lepart. You did a great job. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and I appreciate you being interested.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right. We'll be in touch. Thanks very much.
All right. Good night.
Thank you.